Real estate wholesaling is really made up of two different businesses. So you have the acquisitions and you have the disposition side of real estate wholesaling. These come together and it forms the business of real estate wholesaling. So the acquisition side is to acquire the property. The disposition side is to sell the property. They both take different skill sets to actually be successful at both different sides of it. This raises the question, do you need to have a partner in your real estate wholesaling business in order to be successful? So in this video, I'll share with you the different kind of partnerships that you can have in your real estate wholesaling business. I'll also share with you in my personal life my experience with different partnerships, and I'll let you know where I'm at right now as far as, do I have a partnership, and also my preference, personal preference on, what do I recommend for you as far as if you should have a partnership or not. So the first thing to know is, the most common type of partnership in real estate wholesaling is your JV. So that's a joint venture, which basically means typically somebody has the actual seller. So somebody has the seller under contract, and then there's another investor who is going to sell that property to the end buyer. So they come together for a joint venture. So that joint venture, it can be shady sometimes just because, you may not know or have a real relationship with that other investor if you're posting it in Facebook groups. So stop posting your deals in Facebook groups. Make sure you click the video up there to check that out, or link will be in bio, either one. But don't post your deals in Facebook groups because these joint ventures sometimes can be a bit shady. However, the good thing is you really maintain most of the leverage in the joint venture. So if you're in a joint venture, then you basically tell another investor, so say I had the property under contract at $30,000, I'll give you my price, whatever that price may be, or maybe in a joint venture, it'll say 50%. Either way, if you bring the buyer to the table, then you and I will break bread, we'll split the profits. So that's the way a joint venture works. And the good thing is you're not bonded to that one investor. So if you find the buyer yourself, or if somebody else finds the buyer, then you don't have to honor that agreement. So that's the most common form of partnership when it comes to real estate wholesaling. Another form of partnership is going to be if you were to join a team, like some type of team, or if there was somebody who's on a team and then they're kind of assigning you a role on the team. That's another partnership as well. So, with that, the profit and the splits kind of can vary, because if you're on a team and you're not, making any expenses, you're not paying any expenses, then you may get, less than half of what's actually being divvied out, just because you are not paying any expenses. So those are really the main two ways when it comes to official partnerships or official agreements. Another way would be, if you have somebody you've already formed an established relationship. This is really like the last way, as far as you were to have a relationship that was already established. In this relationship, you kind of have an understanding where they do their role and then you do your role, which could be, you selling the property, or, you're getting the property under contract, whatever it is, but the relationship is already established. So that is another possible way, and you have your, certain setup, whatever that may be. But the two most common ways, again, is going to be your joint venture. Either you're the buyer, you have somebody who's buying it, or you're the person who has the contract with the seller directly, and you're finding somebody with the buyer. And then you're joining a team where you're assigned a specific role, and yet that role is, would amount to whatever amount that you guys agree upon, which is probably less than 50% if you are not paying any expenses. Okay, so in my own personal experience, I can say when I first got into this real estate wholesaling business, with me, the people that I was looking out to sell my properties to, even when I was getting, 9 months took me to get my first deal. Within those 9 months, I was getting properties under contract that were not deals, but they were close to being deals. Now, that being said, with them being close to being deals, I had, people reach out to me from the standpoint of either real estate investors who were buying the property and maybe fixing and flipping it, or they were wholesaling it, or some real estate investors who were just strictly wholesaling. Either way, they saw that I brought value to the table because I was getting the property under contract direct to the seller, and I wasn't out here daisy chaining or any of those kind of things where I was, looking at Facebook groups and sending a deal from a Facebook group or nothing like that. All of my deals were organically grown. So with that being said, I had a lot of, older investors reach out to me to ask me to join their team. They say, I can give you a list of properties. and you can give them a call for me, or the next time you find a list of properties, I'll get them skip trace for you, and then we can just break the bread right there. Or I had all these different types of opportunities, if you will. But the opportunities I looked at was basically to join someone else's ship and to get going on their ship. And from the very beginning, I was all about freedom. So put it like this: I looked at it like I did not just quit my job at JD Byrider as a car detailer to go and be a team member for somebody else where they got a say-so on what my day-to-day basis looked like. I didn't just quit my job to go and do that. I quit my job so I can be my own boss and to be, to be able to be financially independent. So with me beginning and realizing it that way, I never took anyone up on those offers from the standpoint of, going to their office and calling their leads and, doing things like that. It just didn't sit right with me, because at the end of the day, I knew where I wanted to go, and it wasn't to be in somebody else's office. It was to, have my own team and to build my own lane. That was just ultimately where I was at. So I never, again, took anyone up on a specific kind of en route team. However, my first deal that I actually closed was a JV joint venture deal. So I had the seller, and I found, or someone, found the deal or whatever. And ironically enough, to be transparent, it was in a Facebook group. So my first deal I actually did close in a Facebook group. I posted the typical stuff you see in Facebook groups. It was I have a deal near this area. It was near UC, University of Cincinnati, and asking this price. Personal message me, PM it for more details. The guy ended up, PMing me, and we had a cool little relationship for a little second. He was from Columbus. I was, in Cincinnati, obviously. And I ended up getting in contact with another, mentor of mine through him, because it was his buyer. And then we ended up forming a good relationship or whatever with that buyer specifically. And then, they moved out to Israel, and we kind of lost connection from there. But, shout out to you if you tuned in somehow. But that being said, I do believe that there are some benefits. There can be some benefits to posting in Facebook groups. Obviously, depending on how you do your thing, I just would recommend that as soon as possible, get out the Facebook groups and, do that by closing it using fake buyers. And that's kind of what the technique that I use from that first encounter. So at this very moment, just to get you guys out of here, the very moment, I do believe that it is useful. So me personally, I do believe that it can be useful to, depending on your condition or depending on your position, to be able to, utilize a partnership when it comes to real estate, because there are two different sides. Now, when I say depending on your position, it means depending on how much time you have to give your 100% focus to real estate wholesaling. So for me right now, last year, I did my first year in business, I did about 90% of my deals with a specific person. So with one person, my mentor, and it was with one person. So it was kind of the JV thing, but at the same time, it wasn't an official JV thing. We rarely would sign that type of paperwork. So we had a good relationship, which, came into a good understanding. So, in my second year, I ended up closing basically 95% of my deals by myself. So my second year, I did, 95% of my deals by myself. I did increase my income. However, in my third year, and also, a little bit of my second year, I added on more avenues as far as other than real estate wholesaling, being, behind the camera and in front of the camera and, doing things like this, adding different avenues. It took away from the time that I had to actually focus on getting my deals sold. So again, I really, want you guys to understand it's two different sides to this real estate wholesaling business. So you have your acquisitions when you're selling it, or when you're getting a property under contract, then dispositions when you're selling that property. So in, second year into my third year, with me focusing on building my YouTube brand and, focusing on social media and things like that, it really, the energy that I had, the focus that I had to be putting into to want to put into growing my YouTube channel and also to sell my deals, because me getting them under contract is that's like walking on gravity. That's what it is for me. However, selling them, it's a different type of focus, because you're getting deals in so many different places, and buyers have specific criteria and just different things where, yes, I can do it, but to maximize profits, I'd rather not focus on doing that, and I'd rather have the focus elsewhere. So that way, for me, that's why it makes sense for me to form a relationship where I have, somebody to take care of the buy or the selling disposition side of things, and I'm in the acquisitions side of things. So for me, that's where I'm personally at in my real estate wholesaling business. You got to figure out what makes sense for you. If it makes sense for you, if you're focusing on things, maybe you're somebody who has a job, maybe you're somebody on your job, you just so happen to have people who are looking for properties on your job. So maybe somebody like, hey, send me over some properties you got. Maybe you start telling people that because people at your job that's looking to buy property. So now you'll be the person that's on the disposition side, and you got somebody who's maybe like me that's focused on, a couple of things, but they also, keeping their momentum going, and, you want to hit them up and say, hey, I got buyers, hit me up. Or maybe you're on the flip end of it, right? Maybe you're somebody who has a bunch of, sellers, and you're looking for somebody, with buyers. Whatever your thing is, it's always opportunity there, because in real estate wholesaling, you should have peace of mind knowing that there are two different avenues. You can get really good at having buyers, or you can get really good at having sellers. When you have really good at having buyers, you have to be really good also at making relationships, because people do business with people they like. So if you're, somebody who has buyers, and also a great personality, then people are going to, if you can get the job done, people are going to trust you to get the job done. So that's a great position to be in. So just kind of figure out what works best for you, and, keep your heart in each step, because you're already a success. Appreciate you. One last thing, guys. I feel like the main thing, just this focus on you specifically, I feel like the main thing, you have to be honest with yourself on why you are doing real estate wholesaling. Is it just to get a couple bucks in your pocket? If that's the case, join a team, join and get into contact with somebody, get on their get in their business, somebody who already has a business going, if it's just to earn a couple bucks. If you're trying to build a business for yourself, if you're trying to understand real estate and understand real estate investing more for yourself, then I definitely think you got to be the one. Well, I definitely know you need to be the one steering the ship. You need to be the one knowing where the direction's at. Or if you're not the one steering the ship, then you need to at least be right there with a person that steering the ship, right there over their shoulder, like, where we going, how we getting there, what's the functionality, how we doing it. That way you will be able to actually understand and grow from a intellectual point of view when it comes to understanding real estate investing as a whole, and not just real estate wholesaling, because real estate wholesaling in and of itself can just be a numbers game. Like, if you're just somebody that's just looking for money, then it'll just be, I called 100 leads, or you may not even be keeping track of how many leads you're calling. You're just calling until you get paid. You don't want to go and turn into that, because that can easily turn into a rat race, versus you actually understanding the real estate investing process, and that'll make you feel like you're growing internally, externally. You'll see the results as well. So that's the main thing, guys. Just figure out why you're in it, and that'll make it easier for you. For me, I knew from the beginning that I just wasn't in this for a couple bucks. For everything that I do, I'm in this longevity. Like, that's really what I'm thinking about. I'm in it thinking about how it's going to look 10 years from now. That's what keeps me going. I mean, you got to figure out what keeps you going. If you're in this for a couple bucks, and maybe you're doing this for a part-time student, just get some bucks while you're at school until you get your real job, quote unquote, whatever that is for you, then, maybe you'll just be willing to take a lesser profit. So just got to figure out what it is for you, all right? Most of all, get to stepping.